But yeah, liquid's in there.
Okay, cool. There we go.
But you could talk to our development arm to find out more. Kind of, they haven't broken it all down. But we're trying to get new listeners. You know, we really need young people if we want to keep jazz and keep moving forward into the future.
Okay. So, all right. Well, we are public now. It's streaming. So I'm going to officially start the meeting. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Like I said, we're a little bit slim on attendance, but everyone's been excused who can't make it tonight. So I want to start by first welcoming our newest member, Sylvie Johnson. Welcome, Sylvie.
Hi.
It was a long wait, and we're so fortunate to have you.
Thanks. I'm glad to be part of the group.
And as you know, Sylvie did the MLK, the amazing MLK video, and has done some other work for us. So very excited to have her on board. And so I'd like to move on to the approval of the March minutes. If you haven't read them, you can glance at them. And then I'll just ask that someone approves.
I approve.
And then I think we need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Lonnie. Okay, so I'll be facilitating today since Linda is not here and Earl can't talk, but he's listening. So I wanted to start with the public art at Colonial Plaza. You know, we've got the public art committee, and they've done such a good job, and we're just, you know, moving right along, right according to our timeline for the project. And so they've met a couple times, and at the last meeting, we narrowed it down to 6 finalists. And I wanted to share with you the 6 finalists and the next step. So now that it's down to 6 finalists, we're inviting them to a public art in-person orientation at the Colonial Plaza, April 15th at 9 o'clock. I just want to double check that. Yes, April 15th at 9 o'clock. Anyone's welcome. If you want to come meet the artists, they will all be there in person. It's a group orientation. They'll be there at the same time. And I'll be putting together an agenda, but the main thing is to walk them through, tell them the possible places they can place art. Paul, I hope perhaps you or Troy, and well, someone from your staff can be there as well. That would be great.
When is it again? Because Troy's going to be on vacation, and so
right, Troy's on vacation.
Yeah, he can't be there.
Right.
And really, I don't want anybody else representing because he's the one who designed and built the project.
I believe we invited Courtney, and she can make it. And I don't know if you want to be there, but you know, just in case you have questions about installation, footprint, any of those things. I want to be able to answer all their questions so that they don't have to take, you know, 2 steps forward and 10 steps back with their design. So the idea is to just give them all the information they could possibly have and walk the site with them and tell them our thoughts. Which right now we're definitely not doing a water feature. We are asking for lighting. We're not stuck with it on the idea of a gateway, just to reiterate. We are interested in something interactive. And I think the committee needs to meet maybe one more time to discuss how visible they would like this piece to be versus how interactive, and what can be, what is there a balance there. So let's go to the PowerPoint. I'll share my screen. And so this is, are you seeing the full screen? Okay. So the top 6 artists are Mary Koss, John Fleming, Thomas Haddad Drugan, they're a team, Peter Requiem, Preston Singletary, and Paul Sorey. So, okay, just a minute, please. Stop sharing. Should I do the 2? Okay, so we'll start with Mary Koss. And I'm just showing 5 or 6 pieces of their artwork. Okay, so, okay, there we go. And you can see this is an interactive piece where made of wood and stone where people can actually sit. I believe that's at the Gates Foundation. Aladdin's Rendezvous. And we also put the price point so you can see the cost of some of the work, that kind of what you can get for your money. Green Bridge, Green Drain. Can you see this? This is an indoor piece. This is called Sister Carnes. This is so cool. It has lighting on the inside, a lot of movement to it. And this is called The 3 Wishes. And the committee members, you can speak up if you have anything to say about why you chose this artist, what you liked about him.
Yeah, I'll just voice up that one of the things I thought was interesting about this artist is that she uses a wide variety of materials. And of course, we don't know the project brief for all these sites. But she seemed to have, it's interesting to me, she comes up with what would appear to be a very unique solution for each location. And she's open to a wide variety of media.
And you can see she uses lighting very well. This piece was actually focused on diversity, and there's lettering written in different languages in the steel that it's made out of. Then we move on to John Fleming. And again, Lonnie or anyone on the committee, if you want to talk about this artist. Then we move on to Haddad Drugan. They're a team, a husband-wife team, I believe. This is called Luminous Wind. And you'll see the price point on these art pieces are very high. So we're thrilled that they were interested in doing something for us. This is a great piece with lots of movement, lots of great lighting, iridescent clouds, sunspot, flock. Toledo Rise is really beautiful. So it'll be interesting to see what their concepts are for the $90,000 project. This is a really interactive piece at Fremont Peak Park. All the elements you see there are part of it, from the lines on the cement to the stones and the wood benches. And this is called Emergence. Oh, sorry. And oh, these are beautiful Grove of Light. Okay, and then we have Peter, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He has some big bold pieces here with a crow. A very interactive piece with water and buckets. So we really want to think about, you know, Colonial Plaza. It's a thoroughfare unless we're having an event. So we want to think: are we trying to draw people there when there isn't an event? Would people actually stop just for art when there isn't necessarily a cafe or any other place to go? Or are we thinking more, how will this art interact when we have an event? You know, those are all things to be thinking about. You know, this is one, I think, Lonnie, where, you know, we could visualize people sitting there at Colonial Plaza on a, you know, it's a hammer, but it's like a bench, very interactive and useful. And then we have Preston Singletary, which I just absolutely couldn't believe that he applied for this. We're so fortunate that he's interested in this project. He's about to go to the Smithsonian as part of a gallery with a museum of glass. Very well known, very, very popular, and getting more popular by the day. It'd be a big deal to have him work with us. And according to Susan Warner, he's very, very good to work with and very open-minded and a nice person to work with. He's a Native American artist. He uses lighting very well. Again, his projects are very expensive that he's worked on, but the artists know that we have a $90,000 budget. This is the one that's at the Museum of Glass right now. And feel free to, well, maybe we can ask questions at the end. So this is Paul Sori, Flow and Flowers. So his price points on these are a little bit lower and more realistic. He uses light. He uses, you know, things that are colorful and a little different. So we talk a lot about what kind of art will draw and create an opportunity for people to do photo ops. So obviously this is one of those, and here he's used lighting. So at night it lights up. This is a beautiful salmon wave with inlaid lighting, which is just gorgeous. How much was that? So that was $45K. And those are artists. So those 6 were invited to the orientation, and then they were told that they have an in-person presentation to give April 26th, 27th, or 28th, and they've all signed up for their time and accepted those times. So I just want to remind the Public Art Committee to be sure and be present for those interviews. That'll be really important for us to narrow it down at that time. It's our goal to narrow it down to 3 at the most, one to 3 artists. Do you have any questions or comments? Okay. So then we're doing the signal box wraps. So we also had artists, and I'll share my screen here, that applied for those. So the Public Art Committee narrowed it down to their top 4. We have, well, first of all, we get to wrap 4 signal boxes, which is great. We got approval from the city manager. Even though our budget is not that big, they're going to allow us to do that. Use some general fund money. Yes, very, very exciting. And these artists have been notified. So this is Rosa Cruz, Colorful Rocks at Lake. This will be one of our wraps. And as you can see, it's sectioned out to fit the box. She's done many boxes in the past, so this is not new to her. Kelly Loney did Steel Across, which is a Fort Silicon Park setting. Christine did Mount Rainier. And Susan Russell Hall is a very famous artist here in Lakewood, said that we could use any one of her collections, but this is one that stood out. As well as these are some trees, some of which are actually at Lakewald. It really depends on which one's going to fit best around the signal box. And then there was some artwork for consideration. One was Rosa Cruz's tribal pattern quilt. I think, you know, for more international district areas, we're wanting something that reflects the different cultures. This certainly does. And this is her wildflowers. Katie Dean had a leaf of faith that's for consideration. Kelly Loney had a second piece here called Park Savannah. And then Leslie White had many pieces, but these pieces with the fern were most liked by the committee. So the next steps are we're working with the Print Shop Northwest right now. They gave us the lowest quote. They're the most experienced, and they're going out now and measuring. They remeasure, even though that's been done, and they get the exact size of file and shape of the art that's needed. So the next step is we'll share that with the artist, and we'll see. I don't know that all the art that has been chosen will translate to the signal boxes, but we'll know soon, probably in the next 2 weeks. And then we'll just need to decide which art goes on which box. And we'll have another meeting after we know what art fits and what doesn't, what box to put it on. Any questions? I think it's been a fun process. We had a lot of submissions. Okay, and then lastly, moving on to the 25th anniversary art contest. You know, we conceptualized this in January. I think I brought it to the table and everyone was gung-ho on the commission. And here we are, you know, it's done. We had over 80 submissions from our Gimhae sister cities, Gimhae, South Korea. And it's live on the website right now in the form of a flip book. I had envisioned the flip book being much bigger, and unfortunately it's not, but you can expand it yourself. I'm just worried a lot of people may not understand how to do that. But I would say it was a huge success. So thank you for supporting that. Hi, Susan. And please take the time to go to the website and look at that. We set it to music. We put it in a slideshow and set it to music. And at 7 o'clock, at the city council meeting, we'll be playing that slideshow. If we have time, I can play it here. I have it queued up as well, if you're interested. But prior to that, I'd like to give Paul the floor because he wants to talk about the lotus blossom.
Thanks, Ellie. Do I have the ability to share my screen? Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, and could you also elevate Troy from a listener to a panelist?
Yeah. He is.
He was not as of a little bit ago, so if you have, that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay. So while we're working on Troy, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through. As you know, if you recall, we are going to completely rebuild Gravity Lake Drive from actually just west Washington Boulevard, Interlochen, all the way through and then down Gravity Lake Drive to incorporate new roundabouts at Washington, Gravity Lake, Veterans and Gravity Lake, and Nyanza and Gravity Lake. As a part of that, we've been having some conversations with the council about what to do with the lotus blossom. Does it stay in the middle of the roundabout, or does it get moved? And one of the challenges with having it in the roundabout is no one can approach it. We don't want people playing Frogger, running across traffic to go look at the artwork. So it's not a great place. We want to have some interactions with it. Plus, with the way the landscaping is set up, there's going to be trees around it. So for a period of time, it's not going to be highly visible. So in conversations with the council, they asked us to come back and talk to you all about good alternatives where to put it. I will tell you that Mary Dawsworth did talk to the artist, and the artist felt very strongly that it needed to stay in this general vicinity right here at Washington Garden Lake Drive. But that being the case, I want to just kind of walk you through a couple of options. Option one is to leave it in the middle of the roundabout. As I said before, the challenge with that is nobody can get to it. So it's going to be a visual. You drive by, you don't really notice it. You don't appreciate it for what it is. The second option is right here by Lakewood Water, where the road currently curves into the traffic signal. We're going to have a big grassy area there now. So there's an opportunity to actually move the lotus blossoms somewhere in this grassy area. As you can see, the way we've got it laid out, we have a walking path that cuts through it to get to the sidewalks and as well to get to the crossings to get people safely across the road. So there's an opportunity to put it somewhere in one of these green spaces right here where people can get to it, they can see it, they can interact with it. Another option that we were thinking about is potentially putting it at the end of the parking area, right in front of Lake Old Gardens, on the far end down here. It does take up some space. That's why we would need to build an area for it. People can get to it. They will be able to walk around it. It'll be on the side of the road. So it's a viable site. The next option, not one of my favorites, to be honest with you, but it's not my choice, is right here at the entrance into the parking areas. And the reason why it's not my primary choice is because in conversations with Susan, we've been talking since initiation on this parking area, leaving some of these areas in here for Lake Old Gardens to provide some artwork or some signage coming into there. But it is an area that we got to put forward to discuss. The next option for us is down here at the far end of the parking area here. It's right by the roundabout. It's right by the entrance, the access entrance for the service and deliveries. And so it would be visible. Similar thing, you know, it's close by the parking area. People can see it. It's an option. And then we could build a new area, viewing area on the other side of the roundabout down here. That's another option. And then the last one is in the center of the roundabout. Again, not a favorite and preferred location for people to get access to it for visibility. It's quite a ways away from where it's initially set. All of these right down here, quite a ways away from Washington and Gravity Lake Drive. So those are the options that we came up with, Troy and I. And so we're really here to hear your thoughts and where you think you'd like to have the artwork, because we're engineers. We know what we like when we see it, but we don't design art and we don't place it. But these are the choices that we've come up with, and we'd like to get some feedback from you.
So it has to stay on Gravelly Lake Drive?
As a part of this project, yeah, it has to stay on Gravity Lake and or right there on the corner of Washington and Gravity Lake.
Do you mind going back to the first slide?
First slide?
Yeah. Because you mentioned the artist so strongly about having it at the location where it originally is. So I drive by that location all the time, every day that I come to work or go to the store. And I've never seen, not once, a person interacting with that art. No. So I don't feel like that's a big decision point. Just the visibility is. So my question is, if you know you have an art piece, let's say it's in the center there where the artist wants it, why would you put trees that would block it? Why not lower foliage?
The trees are in there as part of the landscaping plan. We can cut the trees out, but then you've got a grassy area with a piece of art in the middle of it. The previous time I met with the Arts Commission, we talked about the potential of having an art walk around the lake. Now it's a concept and it's a long-term vision, but we're trying to make sure that our project actually allows for that as we build the roads and the shared use path around the lake. I'm sorry, I'm looking over to this screen here. There we go. So the artist wants it in this vicinity, so at Washington Gravity Lake Drive. I don't think there'll be any problem with not having it in the roundabout, but having it over here on the side, which is in the next slide. Somewhere in one of these two green areas over here, because that gives the opportunity for people to actually interact with the art in much greater fashion, or at all, than having it in the middle of the roundabout.
Now, would there be trees around the perimeter of those grassy areas?
There will be landscaping, but I don't recall that there's trees around it. Now, Troy, can you hear us okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so do you remember what the landscaping plan is in this green area right next to Lakewood Water?
So that's a lot more low-growing shrubs and stuff so that you can see pedestrians in and around the area.
That answer your question?
You hear me okay there?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you, Troy.
And is that location visible for everyone coming by? For instance, if you were...
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I mean, if you're coming through the roundabout, if you're coming from the south to the north end, you're going to glance over. It's not going to be as visible than if you're doing the circuit around the roundabout. But what it also does is it allows for those who are using the sidewalks and the shared use path to get to it, to interact with it. This location versus another spot in the green area here, it's just subjective to where you don't want it located. But if we put it in the middle of the roundabout, the problem is that the only ones who are going to see it are the cars. And the question is, when you're running through the roundabout, you really shouldn't be stopping to look at the artwork. You need to get through the roundabout. You should be watching for traffic. You should be moving and getting through it. So that's why we were thinking about this area here as a possibility, because it meets the artist's desire to keep it in the general vicinity of where it's installed. We can do that. It allows for people to walk up to it and see it. If it's right along the edge like this, people who are driving through will still see it. They'll probably see it the same amount as if it's in the middle of the roundabout. If you go down to the Lake Old Gardens parking areas here, well, you've got one potential at the end where people can get to it, they can see it. The other potential here where they can definitely see it also. And the third potential is on the other end of the parking area. Again, the closer it is to the roundabout or in the roundabout, like option 7 here, it's got the same problems, I think, for people being able to interact with it, you can't. And then being able to really enjoy it. Really would rather have people going through the roundabout, focusing on traffic and moving. So those are just our thoughts. Which one would you like me to go back to? So let's run through them.
First, would you like to see a slide? Anyone? I guess on this slide, Paul, could in terms of how big that smaller piece of grass is right off the road, that how in real life, like how big is that?
So Troy, the area that Sally's asking about is between Washington and Gravely. If you're turning right off of Washington onto Gravely, you can see it, can you not? We just can't see you, correct?
Yeah, 100% correct. And it's a 50 by 30 area.
So 30 feet across and then 50 feet from end to end. Yep. In the long dimension.
And you wouldn't really want people walking around it because then they're right on the road there.
Well, there's plenty of room in here for them to walk on the grass and walk around it. We can move it closer to the sidewalk that you see cutting through here, so they're further away from the road, and that way they can be right up to it and walk right around the artwork right there.
Okay. Do any members want to?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I was just curious to know if this artwork was intended to be something to be viewed, but not approached and interacted with? Was that one of the ideals of Lotus? Was to be just like a giant thing that you see but you don't interact with?
I honestly, I don't know. It was installed long before I got with the city, so I'm not sure what the intention is of the art.
I was wondering because you were saying the artist wanted to keep it there, because I love the idea of more walkability and a reason to get out of your car and enjoy. I love that idea. And I do not look at this artwork because I'm always, when I drive that little area, I'm always really careful to not get hit. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I love roundabouts. So did someone else say something? Sorry.
Does anyone else have thoughts about this?
Sally, if I may, I remember when Karsten, I believe his name is Karsten Boyson, right? When he gave a presentation at Lakewood United at Burrs one morning, and he referred to it as kind of an homage to people of service, and he thought of his family being military as an example of service. So in terms of, maybe why he feels so strongly about where it's placed in that general vicinity. I'm thinking one of his rationales was it would be near the Veterans Hospital, perhaps. If that's incorrect, I'm sorry for that. But he had a strong inclination for the community and service, and the men and women who've served in the armed forces was part of his thinking behind it.
However, I like the idea of putting it off to the side right there and not in the middle. I mean, I think that's a very interesting location to actually place it, and I think that would really set off that whole side area to where it would promote people to be to engage in that area and kind of use that area a little bit more. So that's kind of my thought.
I agree with that opinion. That would be my preference too. I too, Sally, have never seen anybody interacting with this particular work of art in the traffic circle. However, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't if it was placed in a more advantageous spot. So I mean, my opinion would be, if it has to move, to put it in this grassy area by the Lakewood water site. I think that would be very appropriate.
Another thing, it's like, I'm a big walker. I mean, I love to kind of walk around everywhere with my dog, and the addition of sidewalks around the city I've just been so excited about that, because it's just easier to kind of get around, and especially all the sidewalks that are going in to the Gravelly Lake Drive area. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, wow, one of these days I'm going to be able to walk from my house all the way down to American Lake, and back again on the sidewalk. And this will be another one of these little features that will promote people to kind of get out of their cars more, to enjoy the city more. And that'll just be another little area that'll help to make that happen.
Do you think that all the cars going in front of it will block the view, or that it'll need to be raised a little bit? It's not, you know what I mean?
Are you asking me that question?
A little bit now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's trees kind of in front of it, depending on what area you're kind of driving by. So sometimes it's not even very noticeable as it is right now.
I might point out that when we pick it up and we move it, if there's a desire to pour a more of a pedestal to put it on, bring it up a couple of feet, we're talking about, it would be a change. So we pay the contractor for it, but it's going to be a minuscule amount of money. So if we need to raise it up a couple of feet, Troy and I can figure out what you need and have a little more of a pedestal type of setup for it to put it on. And I'm not talking 10 feet, but sorry?
Hey, Paul, would there be the opportunity to put lighting on it? Do we?
Yes, we've already had one of our council members tell us that we're going to have uplighting on it, aren't we? And the answer is yes, sir. As soon as we figure out how to do it out here, we'll have uplighting on it.
I think actually that would be lovely.
I think it makes sense personally. If you're going to pay the time and put the time and money into it, you got to have it lit up so people can see it at night.
Yes, it's a piece with some merit. So I think that would be the right thing to do.
I'd also share with you that as a part of the project, we are putting in all new street lights too. So we'll take a look at it and see how lit up it is, and then see what additional uplighting is necessary to really make it pop out. So you were talking about an homage to the veterans and being able to walk down to American Lake. If you haven't gone out and walked Veterans Drive project, which is just being finalized now, you're absolutely right. With this project, if you live along the majority of Gravely Lake or in close proximity, you'll be able to walk from your home down the Veterans Drive project all the way to the VA hospital. That project is coming just about done. It's looking really good. And we're in the process right now of pursuing some federal monies for both completion of the Washington Boulevard project all the way down to the North Fork with, yes, more roundabouts and bike lanes and sidewalks. And then additional funding we're going after for the Nyanza Road project, which will tie this loop together. So potentially within the next 3 to 5 years, we could have sidewalks all the way down out here, if not a little bit sooner. You got to be careful because this one big project we're talking about, that's a 18-month long project. So we don't want to take out Nyanza and do that project while we're finishing this up. That would not go over very well. So.
You know, I would say that is a nice location. There's just a lot of visual obstacles. So I would just say, in consideration of it, if it were to be moved there, thinking through the trees, line of sight coming around and optimizing the line of sight to the art.
I agree. Yeah.
So, Paul, do you need a recommendation, a vote, just a feedback?
I would like to have a recommendation from the commission here, Arts Commission. Do you recommend this option, keeping in mind that you haven't seen exactly how it's going to fit in with the landscaping? We got to work with you on that to make sure it fits in well. But knowing it's here versus anywhere down by the parking area or the roundabout down there, that allows us to tell council that we talked with you, you concur that this is the better spot for it. Then we can start working out the details on how to uplight it, what kind of landscaping we want around it, because our contract with our contractor right now still shows it in the middle of the roundabout. So now we can start working on the details of how to fit it over here.
I also want to say that I think that this is going to be really a safer option too, to actually do it, to spend time looking at it, because you can park your car and go look at it, or walk to it.
So, Paul, let me ask you, what is the conceptual design for each of the roundabouts? If there's nothing going in the roundabouts, the one on Veterans and the one on Washington, what's going to be in the middle? Is it going to be planting beds and such?
I think I'm going to turn to Troy because I don't want to misspeak. I know there's plantings and vegetation. I know that the one down at Nyanza is going to have the Welcome to City of Lakewood sign put back in. But I'm going to have Troy talk to each one of these roundabouts if you could, Troy.
So each one's a little bit different in that there are different plantings and different shapes to each roundabout. if Paul can scroll down at least one graphic, it'll show you the shapes a little different. So the only one we can really afford to put trees in size-wise is the one at Gravelly, Washington. Other than that, the rest are a little bit smaller. Obviously, the Gravelly Nyanza is quite a bit bigger too. That's not shown in any of these graphics. However, like Paul mentioned, we've got the gateway sign going in there. So for the most part, it's just lower growing shrubs. It's all landscaping, but lower growing shrubs and, you know, some vegetation, some grasses type of thing. It's going to look completely, I shouldn't say completely different than Veterans, but they're not all concrete with domes that you can just drive over.
The concrete with domes you drive over are really for the smaller ones. We don't have a large enough space because the big trucks, they can't make the tighter radius. So if you go down Veterans, you'll see the first one on Lake City Boulevard. It's the concrete dome. You can drive over it. You go to the next one, which is down the business district, and it's got a big planting bed in the middle of it because it's a much larger diameter because we have space there. Then you go to the one down by the park, and you see it's small, and you can see that the big trucks are already dragging the trailers over the top of it to a degree. And that's what it's designed for. It's designed to allow that when you don't have enough space to make it really large. It's also related to the traffic volume going through it too. So I'm getting a general sense. I haven't heard anybody say that any of these other locations are their favorite spots. So I think, is it fair to say that you're coalescing around this option number 2, which is in the large area by Liquid Water District? Details to be determined as far as the plantings around it, how proximity to the sidewalk and the road, et cetera.
Good. My concern in where the potential site is that people coming down Washington Boulevard making a right turn, that if that is there and anybody goes out to it and they're not paying attention, say to their children, that it could be an unfortunate situation if one of them got off onto that road, because the cars are going to be making that turn and accelerating at that point to go down Gravelly Lake. I might move it slightly north or a little farther away where the driver is already in the turn and he's comfortable and he's headed to Gravelly Lake. I think where it is right now, he's still trying to navigate through there, if I'm being clear at all. And I'm sorry, I'm a little latecomer. Is there a reason why we don't put it right in the center of the roundabout? They do it in Europe all the time.
The current design for it is in the center of the roundabout. The challenge with that is no one can get to it. You can't have any physical interaction with it. It's going to be a little dot in the middle of the large roundabout, and it's got other vegetation it's competing with. We talked about the opportunity to move it in a couple of different locations, and this location right here. The dot here, as I've tried to explain, don't fixate on the dot. Fixate on the concept that it's going to be over in this area here. It's going to be visible to the traveling public, and it's going to be accessible to pedestrians and walkers. This is 30 feet across the grassy area here, and it's 50 feet in length. So the exact location of it could be definitely closer up to the sidewalk that bisects the grass area here, so it's safer for people to be around. I'm not sure that parents are going to be really letting their kids run out and play out in traffic, frankly. But we can plant some very low growing planting beds along the edge here that would help keep them away from the traffic. And when they're coming through the roundabout, Troy, the speed of this roundabout is to be at what speed again?
It's between 14 and 20 miles an hour is the circulating speed on that.
So that's the design speed. That's the comfort speed when you come in and go through it. So you shouldn't be accelerating until you're out of the roundabout, all the way down on Gravelly Lake Drive already, coming out of it.
Well, I think your idea of the shrubs as a barrier, I think that would mitigate, my concern about an unattended child, where somebody's looking at the ornament and then they're not paying attention and the kid accidentally goes out there. But a small barrier would solve my concern. But going back to the center, if you raised it and light it, I think that'd be pretty striking no matter how you're coming into that roundabout. And I've never seen anybody at the at the location that it's currently in. I mean, people drive by it, but I've never seen anybody out there looking at it. And they're
It's not
certainly
safe
not
to
going to
get
try
to
to cross all that traffic to get to the center of the roundabout.
There's actually not a safe path to get to the current location.
Yeah, well, that would be the idea. It's for you to admire and appreciate, but you don't have to physically go out there and touch it. That's just me.
No, I mean, you're really right. It's not interactive artwork. It's a visual piece. So the most you could do is take a selfie with it. But if it was in the center, you could snap a photo driving by. You just have to really work the landscaping around so that that art is a centerpiece. I mean, to say there'd be trees, well, you wouldn't put trees because you want it really visible and you'd want to have it lit and you know, work with the art piece. But I think you have a lot of merit in everything you're saying.
Yeah, I think it would be striking because if you raise it up and it's lighted, boy, at nighttime driving, no matter which direction you're driving from, you'll come into it and it'll have a nice little pop to it.
Troy, what's the interior diameter of the green area on the roundabout?
So that green area is roughly a 32.5-foot radius, 65-foot diameter.
What are the dimensions again of the lotus?
The base of the lotus is an 8-foot diameter. And it's about 6 feet tall from what I remember, 6, 7 feet tall.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to say, as much as I drive by it, I always think, why is it off to the side? I mean, I do really like the idea of it being a centerpiece. It speaks to being a centerpiece. Where when it's off to the side, it's almost like we're trying to hide it.
Well, it looks more like an afterthought instead of a crafted decision. How it's currently placed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually it would be very classy sitting there, especially if you raise it a little bit and light it. And you're right. I think if it's off on the side, you know, we could all live with it and it would be nice. But nobody's going to notice it. They're going to be navigating around that roundabout and it'll be like, you know, its current location. People glance at it, but they don't really come in and really get, oh, that's really nice. They're going, what is it? Well, I've got to keep going. But in the center, you're going to see it every day going around. And that's what they do in Europe. They put in the center of their larger roundabouts, they put up whatever the roundabout is to represent, their centerpiece is right in the center.
I think what would help is really considering what was the artist's intention for this piece. And we've had the sharing that it was about commemorative military piece is what I heard. It's not really designed as interactive art. And so I think since we're starting to reconsider the location in the center of the roundabout, I think that from what I've heard, and I haven't spoken to the artist or read anything about it, but that would be fine considering what has been said about the artist's intent.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken up, would you like to weigh in and give us your feedback? Do you like the idea of the centerpiece or off to the side?
Oh, I'd stay with the center. Keep it in the center.
Lift it up and light it. I think that would be really striking as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lonnie, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I guess what I'm weighing out is the whole idea of, I mean, if we had a piece of artwork that's interactive, it definitely needs to be someplace that's sidewalk accessible. And I'm not sure how interactive this piece is, and that's where I'm struggling. I do see, you could kind of lean up against it, and some high school kids could take a couple of,
You photograph with it.
yeah, you take your photograph with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely piece. Yeah.
Yeah, but the bigger, a bigger impact for that piece would be to be smack in the middle of that.
I'm thinking so
Because
too.
it's multi-dimensional, and so that's where the roundabout is interesting, that you are going around this thing, and that piece does change the way it looks depending on what angle you're seeing it at.
That's a really good point, Lonnie. Really good
Yeah,
point.
good point. I agree.
I think it was intentionally displayed, as Paul has suggested. I do agree. It could be impactful.
I agree. And like you said, the shape of it, it's like it's meant for a centerpiece because you can go all the way around it.
Yeah,
because of
and it
its
looks
shape.
very different as you are rotating around that piece.
Mm-hmm.
Could you like, is that parking area, or is this little area by the water place going to still be there? The parking area?
That's Lakewood Water District's property. So I'm not sure that they actually, that's part of their service area. They don't have residents coming in there. They have parking in the front of their building for drop off their water bills and all that. But this area right over here is not accessible to the general public.
Right.
Okay, but the green area and the green area off to the side, is that publicly accessible?
This area right here you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all city property. It's all city right away.
Yeah, I mean, because you could have the idea that if someone really wanted to, they could park somewhere safely, stand on that area and get their picture like with it behind them. You know. You know what I'm saying? What you do with the Space Needle
And
and
it's
stuff.
going to be really small.
It's gonna, yeah.
You know,
That's why I like the idea of lifting it and lighting it, you know, like you think about like the beautiful Museum of Glass, you know,
yeah,
blue orbs that are so striking and kind of unusual looking. But you're right. If you can't see it, then, you know, because I never look. I'm always negotiating traffic. So I like the idea of no trees and really making it visible. So,
You know, if it's in the center, tens of thousands are going to see that and drive around it every day versus maybe two people that want to get a selfie with it off to the side. So in terms of the community impact, I mean, everybody every day is going to interact with that roundabout. And especially at night, it's going to look gorgeous. And even in the daytime, it's going to look nice. But off on the side, I think you're actually degrading it. I mean, not degrading it, but taking away what we have. We have an image that is really quite beautiful in its own way. And now we're going to allow people every day to enjoy it without having to get out of their car or do anything. And I've never seen anybody in its current location other than I was there for the opening ceremony of it or the unveiling, but I never saw anybody since then standing in that area.
Well, like I said before, there's no safe way for them to get to it right now.
Right.
Yeah, well, then maybe that's a good thing.
I guess it all comes down to is, as you've been discussing, is it intended to be interactive or not? Yeah. And if the answer is it's not, then putting it here versus off on the side, it doesn't really matter. If you want somebody to interact with it, you can't be in the middle because they're not going to be able to interact with it. There's no safe way to get to it. If you want it in the middle, then we're going to have to take a look at the landscaping plan that's developed here to make sure that it's visible. At the same time, we'll see what we can do to kind of elevate it up and provide some lighting on it. But as I was having Troy point out, when you go around this thing, you're 30, 40 feet away from it, and it's only 6 or 7 feet in diameter itself.
Right.
So does it meet the metric of what you would like to see for a center piece of art in a large roundabout? And if you're fine with it, I mean, we'll stick it here. six one, half dozen the other. We just want to make sure that where we put it in, that's where it goes and it stays there.
It seems, you know, it's in a very big space currently. I mean, that area where it is really large, and it still appears large where it is. It must be as big as the centerpiece, at least the grassy area it's currently on. I don't get the feeling that it looks small and compared to the landscape.
So I think what I'm getting a general sense now is the preference is to put it back in the center roundabout. Is that correct?
I'd vote for it.
Why doesn't everyone who thinks that is a good idea just kind of weigh in right now? Who thinks it is a good idea? Phil? Who else?
I like the idea. Sally, if I could, I have a question for both Paul and Troy, and this is from an engineering standpoint, which I'm no expert of. But the block just preceding the light that's currently Gravelly Lake and Washington Boulevard, Interlochen, I believe, which runs north and south. So I've always found, at least when I come around the corner, if I'm coming back from Lakewood Town Center, I'm turning right onto Washington Boulevard, I'm always conscious of people who are trying to cross at Interlochen. Has the city, when they considered where to put this roundabout, because of its high impact area, you got traffic coming off I-5, obviously from Gravelly Lake, as well as traffic coming from Lakewood Town Center, has there been any consideration about what to do with that corner at Interlochen? Because it's always, to me, been an area where you got to be on high alert as you're coming off either Gravelly Lake from either direction, and you're entering on Washington Boulevard, as to who might be crossing there. Obviously, it doesn't make much sense. It doesn't make much sense to put a light there because you got a roundabout a few feet later. But you're also going to have that apartment complex right there on that corner also. So that's going to be, there's going to be an enormous amount of traffic coming and going right there, even before they get to the roundabout.
Which is why we're putting a roundabout at Interlochen.
And Interlochen's going to have one too.
Yep.
You just answered my question.
This project is building an roundabout at Interlochen. We're also raising Interlochen where you're coming up to get to Washington Boulevard.
Yes.
We're raising that up so you have a better sight line. And then people coming into Interlochen roundabout there, same thing, 15, 20 miles an hour. That coming off of Interlochen onto Washington Boulevard, you are seriously taking your life in your hands. Mm-hmm. So that's why this project includes that roundabout. And then as you move further down to the west towards the north gate, we're putting in how many more? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more roundabouts.
Six.
I think it is.
6 more.
6 more. Thank you. I was doing the mental math, Troy. I was a little bit slower than you were. We have 6 more roundabouts we're also putting in. We're basically eliminating all the traffic signals that are on Washington Boulevard all the way down to Edgewood. And we're putting roundabouts at the cross streets so that people can get in and out of Washington Boulevard safely, and also as a traffic control, a speed control measure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And, you know, just in the interest of time, I want to make sure we get our vote in on this. So Daryl said yes. Phil Rashke said yes.
I'll say yes. I'll say yes too, to the middle.
Okay, Paige. Susan? Lonnie? Lonnie, do you have a vote on that?
Oh, sorry, no, I think in the middle. It's just such a multi-dimensional thing for me.
I think in the middle as well. I kind of like Lonnie's point with the multi-dimensional aspect of it.
Sylvie, do you want to weigh in?
I'm in agreement with the middle.
Okay. Well, there we have it, Paul.
All right. Well, I appreciate
You have our recommendation.
That was really an interesting discussion, so thank you all for that.
Yes. Thank you. Paul, thank you so much.
Yes,
Well,
thank you, Paul.
And Troy, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Troy.
Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, and go Gonzaga.
You know, I really appreciate all of you. You know, the dialogue is so important and it sways other people's opinion. It gives you different things to think about. So thank you for, you know, speaking up, you know, sharing your thoughts. That really changed the direction of that conversation. So I think that was a really, really good decision. So I would like to end. We have till 6:15 with the slideshow. It's set to music. For the 25th anniversary, but does anyone have anything they want to say before that? And you can just watch as much or as little as you want. But my hope is that you'll really, you know, it's on our Facebook page, the link, that you'll help share this out. Okay, so I will share my screen. And let's see, which one is it? That one. Okay, so where would it be? Oh, share again. Okay, so hang tight, everybody. Oh no.
I got a jet, everybody. Have a great night.
Take care, Earl.
Me too.
Hang tight, you guys. It's really worth it. So good. Go.
Everybody looks so serious. Oh, there's some smiles. All right.
And there you have it.
Very nice.
I like that music too. You picked nice, happy music. I like it.
We tried.
Yeah, and the art's really just very cool looking. It is. I love all that stuff.
Yeah, and those were just the winners, but the full flip books on the website. So please share it around, and thank you for all your work on that. I think it's really an incredible art contest, and I think it'll get a lot of notice in the community.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, well, I'll see some of you on the 15th, and our next meeting will be the first Monday in May. Yay!
Okay, thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you have a time for that on the 15th? Sorry.
It's at 9 a.m.
Thank you. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Gonzaga at 6:30.